Hello, everybody, and welcome to the EU Masters. We're here in week 2, day 2. My name is Munchballs, and I'm joined by WouLou as we head into our sixth day of games. How are you doing, mate? Sorry about the delay, everyone. Welcome to the stream, WouLou. We've been missing you, mate.
Yeah, I've been missing being here as well, because I've just been sitting on the sideline, having an urge just to get on and actually talk about League of Legends. And I gotta say, it's been worthwhile the wait, because we got bangers ahead of us today as well.
And I just want to quickly say as well, you see that green screen over there that's going on? Please Photoshop everything you can into that. I want to see some crazy stuff on Twitter after the games. But let's talk about EU Masters. Let's talk about where we are at in our standings, because everything is heating up. If you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, week number 2 is knockout week. This is where we're going through each of our groups and deciding who will make it through to the next stage of EU Masters. And we're going to be going into Group A today. So if we can take a look at those standings, we'll be able to show you who is looking good. But I can tell you from memory that Big right now, 3-0 in the group. They are the favorites. And WouLou, the team in second, I believe you're a little partial to.
I mean, I won't say that I said it from the beginning, but I will say it. Actually, I will say, screw that. I'm going to say it. Makers. Absolutely. Once again, I don't know if they shattered expectations, but I got to say, I was ready for them to be at this position. And I'm ready for them to still be at this position when the day is ending.
Absolutely. 3 Danish players on that team. So we've got a little bit of caster bias from kubYD. I'm not going to lie, but
that is not a little bit. That is full-blown caster bias for that one. I'm just going to say it immediately so people know what they can expect.
Yeah, full-on Danish pride coming out. I wish I could say the same. I wish that there were UK teams anymore, but that's a long since distant dream. Anorthosis in 3rd place, and then Kick in 4th place. And we'll talk more about that as the day goes on, because I think Kick being in 4th is the biggest surprise of this group. But let's talk about our first matchup here, because it is going to be Big going up against Anorthosis. And now for Big, it's kind of an interesting topic, because this is a team that has been 3-0 so far, and you'd expect, like the other 3-0 teams in the tournament, that they're just like coming out of the gate swinging, right? But when you look at Big's stats so far across the course of EU Masters, across the course of this group, it starts a little bit shaky. In the early game, they're not having the greatest goal differences, but as the game goes on, they just rocket into control, and it feels like this is a team that just takes a little bit of time to warm up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually when people think Prime League, they'll think of Mouse, right? They'll think of Leader, and they'll think skill check teams. But when you take a look at Berlin International Gaming, they're way more calm and collected about their game. They like getting to that late game. They like actually being able to pull off macro and not just skill checking their opponents. So I'd definitely say that out from the Prime League, Berlin International Gaming, definitely the smartest about macro as well.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can live up to our expectations of the mid game when it comes to Big, because when we look at their goal differences across the course of the game as well, the early game goal differences at your 10 and your 15-minute marks are actually in the negatives on average. But once you get beyond 20 minutes, and once you get further into the game than that, towards the late game at 30 minutes, we start to see massive goal leads. So it very much feels like around that mid game, sort of beyond the 15-minute mark, that's where this team really kicks into its own. And a huge amount of that comes from the solo lanes, right, WouLou? We've got a couple of big names here that are stepping up that are really going to be leading the charge.
It's tough as well, right? Because you take a look at Big, and always when you say, okay, so where does the strength lie in a team, you usually think that the other part of the map is weak, but that's not the case either. Like, the solo laners for Berlin is just, they're incredibly skillful. They're incredibly talented. And you see that SLT, for example, he likes to be in a champion where he can take pressure off the lane and actually dominate. The Jace, the Gnar, the likes of Quinn into Renekton as well is something that he has loved to be on. And for Reeker as well, he loves being the one of these skill check champions like Echo. We've seen it on Sylas, Akali, these melee champions that just need level 6, and at that point they're ready to pop off as well. So you need to respect the solo laners, but at the same time you need to also pay attention to Keduii, because he's been on the Tristana for so many games already and has been absolutely tearing bot lane apart in bad matchups as well.
Yeah, definitely one of these situations where there are a lot of threats to keep your eyes on from Big. And last time we saw this bot lane matchup as well, Keduii and Seaz were able to get very, very far ahead in that matchup. So we'll see if that's going to happen. Again, we're into Chap Select. As you can see, a couple of Shadow Isles bans as well as a direct ban towards WouLou there. That Fiora is a big pick for WouLou. He's played it twice so far in the EU Masters group stage, so that's being taken off the board from him. Then over to the side of Anna, we've got Lilia banned away, we've got Tristana banned away. Curious what you think, Gulborg, will the third ban be?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. There's still a lot of champions you could try and take away as a first pick worthy opponent. It is actually going to be the Seraphine, something that we EU teams have been very fond of. Not so much you guys over at the LPL munch, but I think that all these bans coming out here shows that both teams are very well researched. I think the Fresh from kubYD played a pivotal part once that back when Anno took a game of Kick as well. And I think the Lilia is really respectable. Karim has actually got a 100% win rate all year on this champion, so no reason to let them have that. And with Tristana out of the picture, knowing that Anno doesn't actually... Wait a minute. Alright, I'll get to that point. But having Jinx is just great as an AD carry. Rell even better. But Dominant, this is his first game on Udyr. He didn't even play this back in the GLL playoffs. For so long, this champion has not been prioritized by this team whatsoever. And that's why no teams are banning it out against them. So this is really clever. You get the Hecarim ban out of the way. You get the Udyr for free. And they've just been playing the long con here.
Yeah, either they've been playing the long con, or we're going to have some shenanigans, and that's an Udyr going to the solo lane. Because we know WouLou likes to bring out some spicy picks as well. Let's not talk about that, though. I don't think that's going to happen. We've got an Alistar locked in for Seaz, and now for Big, they're going to round out this composition. Things like Orianna still available as well if Reeker wants to go for something like a control mage in the mid lane. It's actually going to be a blind Gnar locked in.
Yeah, so I definitely still think that you should grab the Orianna here. We know Jojo has been very good on this champion as well. And I think for the side of Anno, you need something to give you this early priority in the game as well in these control mages. You can grab the Orianna, you can ban out the counterparts of the Victor or the Syndra or whatever you want to ban out that you don't feel as comfortable going into. Twisted Fate as well could be an option. But they're actually going to go with the Sylas as well. So therefore, I don't think the Twisted Fate ban is coming out. In this second ban phase, though, I am expecting Big to get rid of some of these Gnar counters. For example, the Jace out there, or maybe even the Ornn, because we know even though WouLou has been very happy to go into Fiora, he's also been very reliant on weak side during the playoffs. It's not very often that he actually will take these carry performances. It's either been Fiora or it's been Gnar, or else it's been weak side. So it wouldn't surprise me to see they wanting to double down further on him after grabbing the Gnar.
Yeah, we'll see if that's going to be the option, because things like Renekton also get taken off the table somewhat when you're going up against that Gnar, but things like the Jace are available. That's very much a carry matchup that you can go for yourself. It's something that SLT has been a big proponent of. When you think of SLT, you think of like the Quins, the Jaces, these carries that want to take over the top lane. Now he's on Gnar. Maybe it's an opportunity for WouLou to get a little bit of revenge for last time they met in that top side.
And with these bans coming out here, like you have the for Anno, we're going to be looking for a blind, but not a blind pick, but it's counter pick no matter what. Top lane is going to be counter pick into the Gnar, and AD carry, it's just going to be into the Jinx here. So you got some different options you can go for. If you want to go for that disengage into the likes of Alistar and the Gnar, you could go from the Xayah, just so you have some survivability if they come in with a dog pile composition, as they kind of are drafting right now from the side of Berlin International Gaming. So you can secure that up, or you could just straight up counter pick the Gnar in the top side and just wait to see the full composition of Big before you grab that AD carry pick.
We'll have to see. AD carry is getting taken off the board, and now it's down to LOCKIE. If he does want to go for that, as you say, still the top lane lock-in, you could go for a counter pick in the AD carry. But the Xayah that you mentioned will be locked in. So now, Gulborg, what do you reckon? Last two picks here for Big. Where do they go in these solo lanes?
Well, I think that it's tricky with the Sylas. Like, you could try and match it with another melee that you don't mind too much, and just skill check it with the Akali if that's what you're feeling. But I think you just need something that's controllable in the mid game here. Like, you could easily go for that Orianna here that I am a huge advocate for in this meta, just because like most games they kind of do go to the semi-late game, and it is a very skirmish and team fight relying meta at the moment. And Orianna has just been the queen of that for so long in the middle. And then for the jungler, it's going to be interesting. There's like loads of pick you could still go for with the chem tank. We know Volibear has been one of them, those that you could pick up. Even since Sao has seen its light, even though we haven't really seen Karim on him, he's like the Graves as well. But it is actually going to be the Volibear to match this early pressure that comes out from Udyr as well.
I would say it would be a bit of a statement to bring out Xin Zhao against Dominant, our most prolific Xin Zhao player on the Masters. That really would be playing with a lot of confidence right there. The Volibear, as you say, will be the last lock-in. And then Anno round out their composition with a Karma going up towards the top side. I said that WouLou likes to play these spicy picks, very much going for one of those lanes that you can have a lot of good trades against the Gnar.
Yeah, so this can be interesting with the composition we see coming out from Anno. Udyr is obviously going to benefit from the shielding and movement speed you get out from the Karma, but I've talked to a few teams, and either they're really a huge fan of Karma, they've had good scrim resource with the Karma, or either they've been like, this champion is just terrible. It feels like we're just missing a champion when you get to the late game. And we saw it in the LEC as well, where the Karma pick coming out from G2 didn't really work out. This might be one of those scenarios as well. You're playing for a Xayah here as your AD carry. Now, Xayah is fine as an AD carry, but you're going up against Jinx, all right? And this Jinx got a lot of heal right now. You got the Alistar, you got the Volibear, you got the shielding and movement speed you get out of Orianna, and you got the Gnar, all right? So when I'm looking towards compositions and what I'm favoring right now, I do like what Big has gone going for them right now, because I think it's a tad easy to execute. But I will still say, you have the Xayah, you have the disengage. If you bait out an engage from Big, and then you go onto a team fight that can be favorable for you, it can definitely still look good for you.
Okay, so let's just quickly talk expectations for a second here, because going into this one, we said Big, fairly slow in the early game, much more about the mid game and late game and going for those team fights and finding advantages that way. For Anno, it's about playing fast, skill checking your opponents, finding advantages in that way. With these drafts, would you say that the teams are leaning towards those strengths and leaning towards those styles?
Well, I have one concern, and that's going to be the pressure in the mid game. I think with Udyr, you're always battle it out, but I think the Volibear pick coming out from Big is really intelligent as well, because you're kind of neutralizing what that Udyr wants to dodge in these early skirmishes. I think that Anno will have a hard time by having this high octane early game pressure that we've seen them be so good at doing, especially into Big, where it kind of should be a mismatch because they're so bad at, well, they're not necessarily bad, but they're usually behind in the early game, right? So you would hope that they'd be able to pull it off, but I will say that I think Big has a lot of factors where they can get to a stable mid to late game without being too punished. So I think as Anno right now, you need to be really creative. You need to gain priority from one of these lanes, have something that Dominant can actually play for. Let Dominant absorb the pressure from his laners. Let him get in there. Let him get a level advantage onto Karim. And when you have that, see if you can start some cheeky engages around these neutral objectives. See if you can bait out a fight. Because if you can find lead in skirmishes, which you still have the CC to do with the composition, it might still be fine for you.
Well, we'll have to see if that's going to be something that they can get going for themselves. As you rightly say, it's all about keeping that pace up. And, well, we're starting off with a very high-pace early game. Anno grouping up at the top side. SLT going to be able to spot that one out, though. And now the thumbs-ups come out. Karim dropping that one. WouLou doesn't even quite manage to land the mantra Q. And that is going to be that goal mode.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could definitely say they prepared some of early skirmishes already there, but it doesn't really work out. SLT spots them out, and you just have to go back. So, counter response right now, you can already see Big. They go into the enemy blue side jungle, they drop a wall to get that down, to get the information about where Dominant is going to be starting, and that is going to be huge information, especially when we've already talked about Anno. They need to get something going in the early game, and it also needs to come from Dominant. So, the fact that Big now can be tracking him is insanely huge for the early game.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep track of those junglers. And I want to quickly mention something. You briefly touched on it in the Champs Select. That's that Dominant has not played this Udyr all season long as WouLou going to step in here. I don't think that this is something he can actually contest, but he can get a bit free damage onto SLT. Drop a ward down there as well. He's now going to threaten the potential steal, which should mean Karim maybe has to just respect and go for the smite there. So Karim being forced to use a little bit of resource, but I want to return to the conversation of Dominant, right? This is not a pick Dominant has gone for all season long, and now it's not banned. They go back to this meta pick. He's used to playing things like the Xin Zhao, the Garen jungle. This is the guy everyone was talking about before EU Masters began, about his Garen jungle, but very much leaning towards the meta as we enter into week 2.
I will say, though, stylistically, Udyr shouldn't be that much of a difference of the champion he already plays, and let's be honest, right? Udyr is not really the hardest mechanical champion to pilot, as he's already looking for an early gank here.
Oh, we've got a gank in the mid lane. There's the follow-up as well. Reeker already down to barely any HP. Dominant with the follow-up flash. We said they'd be quick, and Anno kick it off in style. 2.5 minutes on the clock. They've already got first blood, but now Karim wants to punish. No flash on Dominant here. JoJo's has to move in to try and help, but there's a TP as well. Dominant's on 1 HP, but they're turning it around. They might just be able to turn it into 2 as Dominant runs away. 1 HP, and he gets out with it. Now JoJo's in trouble here. He'll have his E up in just a second or two, but can Reeker finish the kill? That's the big question. Flash still available as JoJo's goes back in, goes back out, and gets away with it.
Yeah, it's not completely done yet. You can look onto the river right now, Munch. The bot lane is up, and they are trying to see if they can catch out Dominant here and see if he's still counter-jungling, but spots him now.
Oh.
He's out of there. And this is exactly what we wanted to see from Anno if they had to succeed. We said they needed to be a bit creative because they were kind of... I don't want to say lessened by their compo, but you need to be, like as you saw, Orianna did have the priority all the time in that mid lane, but Dominant coming in and actually exposing that, getting the flash, getting the kill, and then even getting the Volibear after is absolutely perfect.
Right, let's take another look at what happened here, because Reeker just face checks in, and it's just such an easy follow-up here from Anno, and I mean, Dominant not shy of pulling the trigger on the early kill.
Yeah, and there you go. Karim coming in, feeling a bit too overconfident, knowing that Dominant doesn't really have that flash, so he's just flashing on him. But I think this is the beauty between the two here, between Dominant and Jojo C. The fact that they're actually feeling confident enough to turn on it. Jojo could have instantly been like, you know what, this is a huge wave in mid lane. I need to back out, because, you know, he's almost losing out on his life. But by the great mechanics, he's actually able to get out of there, TP back to lane, and not miss a thing. So, great start from Anno. Almost 1k up already in the early game before we hit those 5 minutes, and that's absolutely beautiful.
Yes, going in as well, managing to deny the crash down, but there's a good amount of damage coming out from LOCKIE, looking for the 2v2 right here. Keduii does have to move away as well. Couple more autos coming in. Karim moving over, and Anno have to be a little bit careful in the bot side here. In with the flash, they're not being careful at all. Keduii moves over towards his jungler, and Seaz will easily be able to guarantee this, but a TP coming through as well. Big with one, what else happens? WouLou into the fray, but Karim has a lot of damage, and WouLou will walk away with his life. Another TP being channeled as it's pure chaos. SLT's now down here as well. The boomerang snipe comes through, and SLT says, hello, everybody.
Oh, we got so many early skirmishes in this game already, and we said big. They like to play calm and collected in the early game, but Anno, they're just not letting them. There is high-octane gameplay every minute of this early game. And I gotta say, SLT TPing in, he lost so many minions in the top side as well. Dominant was up there in the top side, just pushing it in. So SLT, by that TP, lost so much out on so much more, and you can see it here in the replay. Seaz almost going down in the beginning, and then it's a bit disrespectful from the side of Anno. They don't have any vision towards this river already. All of this belongs to the side of Big. So the fact that kubYD decides to flash in here is extremely risky. But the fact that they're still able to turn it around, the fact that it takes so long for them to kill kubYD after he walks into the bush and Karim is too far forward, still no flash, well, it's almost an easy pitch up for WouLou. And here, I think you just need to leave. I don't know why WouLou is not speaking out of that anymore. Just flash away. Try not to get caught by that. And yeah, well, there he does. You can see the minimap right now in the replay, if you paid attention to it, that Dominant was actually pushing in the side, so he lost so many minions in the top side.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dominant was in the top side jungle of Big while all that was going on. Like, it was pretty... Like, if you're LOCKIE and kubYD, you should probably be able to see that your jungler is invading right now on the top side. If he's getting camps, enemy jungler is probably on that side of the map. That's like the basics of jungle pathing right there. So that's a little disrespectful. But Anno 3-2 right now as Big look to answer that one with a play of their own. There's the big ult from SLT. One more boulder would do the trick. And it's going to be Reeker who moves on up to slam that kill for himself. Answer is a dragon for Anno.
Yeah, and I really like this play from Big, because in reality, Anno was probably always going to get this strike. Dominant, as soon as he did, you can see it one level ahead of Karim. He was actually 2 levels ahead before that play happened. So I like that they're proactive, and they're already saying in their mind, look, we know Anno is going to be starting up Drake. Let's just create this cross map before it happens and stay ahead of the play. So really nicely done by Big here. And the fact that they're able to maintain an even gold lead when it went so wrong in the early game is probably why they're doing so well. We talked about it. Big, one of these teams who just historically does very poorly in the early game. But as soon as you get to that mid game, if you're even with them, it's probably doomed.
Yeah, Big definitely very coordinated squad as Dominant moves in towards the bottom side, but he'll be denied this time. Can't continue the snowball. But I just want to quickly take a moment here to look at the difference between the junglers right now. There is a 30 CS lead plus 2 kills in favor of Dominant. So yes, when you look at the top of the screen, gold is just about even. But when you look directly between those two junglers, my god, the difference is night and day.
And that's the funny thing about a Volibear pick going into Udyr, because normally it's there to neutralize the pressure you get out. Volibear is just one of these champions that's almost impossible to duel in the early game, because he'll have so much damage. If you take extended fights with him, the W is just going to do extra damage, so you don't really want to do that. But the fact Dominant has been able to be at this point where you're, well, correctly praising him for, that is really well done by him. And I just want to reiterate that, because this is the carry you got out from Anno here. This is the guy who needs to carry his teammates, or at least that's what his laners wants him to do. And it's really nice to see that he's done so well so far.
And now look at this lane position from Big. They're able to keep these minions alive. Looks like they are just going to clear the minions and maybe look for a recall here. As you can see, LOCKIE and kubYD recalling. Important to mention, Herald is on the map. That could be the reason that we're seeing recalls across the board from our supports. But Keduii looks like he's going to stay in that bottom side and try and get some plates himself. Reeker in trouble, does have the flash, but he's not going to need it. It's Dominant, not going to be able to connect.
Yeah, so first priority coming through from Anno on this lane swap. You can see Xayah already moving up there, and they are looking towards this Rift Herald now. Bot lane is going to be pushed in. If we take a look onto TPs, no top laners right now currently has that teleport. So as SLT, because the bot lane was pushed in, he could stay around longer for this Rift Herald. He does not need to back yet. He needs the Karma to be pushed in towards his own turret first before he actually needs to back. So I think this Herald play is going to be beneficial for Big, despite Anno having the early swap first.
Yep, so Rift Herald will be started off by Big, even though, as you said, Keduii was later on the recall. It does mean that they're going to be able to get in anyway. Reeker with a nice two-man shockwave, and it was all peeled off. It was all a bait. They just wanted the fight after all. kubYD the first one to go down here. It's JoJo's now getting chased down. He's the Sylas with an unbreakable will, but not unbreakable enough. Dominant now, forced to flash over the wall, and that lead that he had before might just be about to get a little bit smaller. Wallop on in. Onto the backline they go, as LOCKIE finds himself alone in the world. Keduii here to sweep up the kills as well. Flashes over, AD carry v AD carry. Double kill for Keduii, and Big are massive.
And that's the thing, take a look at WouLou now. He had to walk all the way up from bot lane. Look at the waves in bot lane. It just crashed now, and it's probably a cannon wave as well with either one or two. So SLT, he's still going to be able to get down there and try to get some of that farm. And it's just the beauty of the decision making coming out from Big here. They knew that they had the priority to just let SLT stay around the Herald. They did not have to send anyone back yet. And the fact that Anno plays right into their hand was a huge mistake. But once again, really nicely played coming out from the side of Big. You can see right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4, sorry. My counting's not that well, apparently. And they are going up against 3 here. It's just easy for them. Like, here the 5th member even joins in Keduii, and it's just doomed from the start for Anno. There's just no way that you win out on this fight.
It's the fact that they commit even further here as LOCKIE comes in. You see WouLou arrive later on to the play, but perhaps a little overzealous. They do manage to trade one back, but it's only on to Seaz, which, like, you know, losing 4 members just in trade of the support, not ideal there, especially when Keduii is getting 2 of those kills for himself. Look at the carry difference on the scoreboard right now. Keduii 2-0-3 plus an almost 30 CS gold lead, and it's a similar story in the mid lane as well. Feels like Big's solo, or Big's 2 primary carries are the ones that have been set up this time.
Yeah, and I just once again have to reiterate the decision making coming out really nice from Big. Usually when you give up the first Drake, you want to give up the second as well, just to try and create some more pressure around the Herald, try to get some of that early pressure. And oh, actually, speaking of Herald, Dominant did get that. But going back to my main point is that I actually think that Big, they're in a position where they can be fighting for this Drake right now. They have a teleport. It could be a 5v5, but the goal difference right now is just so much better for them. They can most certainly pilot these team fights so well. They have pressure in mid lane, they can go down in bot lane, and they can set up the Drake.
And just look at the carry differences that we've got here. 1,000 gold in the top lane. You've got 1,000 gold mid, 1,000 gold in that AD carry position as well. But Anno looking to even things up as the Herald will charge down. That's 160 gold for LOCKIE, and that jungle difference is the big one in favor of Anno. Still a level up as well for Dominant. So if we get to a 50-50 smite fight, you'd expect that to be slightly favorable for Anorthosis, our Greek team. And just remember that this is a region that haven't had the greatest performance historically in EU Masters, but a TP coming on down Nice little answer here from WouLou. Arrives on the scene and wants to push for a little bit more. Remember, this would be the second Drake for Anno if they're able to get it, but Big are here to answer. In goes Seaz. Flame Chopper's going to stop everyone else following as in goes the big Volibear. LOCKIE free firing on the backside. SLT about to turn Mega, but kubYD's already gone down. Now Dominant getting chased out of the play. SLT's going to block his exit path. Dominant doesn't have anywhere to go. Walloped against the wall and taken down by SLT. Big have control of the pit.
And it's just so impossible to teamfight for Anno as well. The fact that Keduii was just untouched throughout that whole fight is, yeah, it's just really not good for you. And they can now pick up the next Drake here. So as I said, Big in a position where they could contest Ori on the first Drake. I think you can tell on Anna right now. They are a bit desperate and they're still looking for a fight.
JoJo's really wants something here. Stolen Volibear all in with the Kingslayer, but SLT walks away and it's JoJo's to go down instead. Anno looking for a desperation play. We're only 13 minutes in and it all feels like it's falling apart. Another one goes down. Is Keduii in a 2v1 and he ain't scared of no one. Walking forward with the rockets. WouLou falls and kubYD's the next on the chopping block. Knockup comes through though as Dominant arrives! Punted over the wall by Seaz, and now kubYD's going to go down as well. One more auto from the cow as it's a 1-for-1 there. Dominant at least getting a consolation prize, but that's all that it is.
And it's so unusual to see Big be so far ahead in the early game. If you've paid attention to this team, their average game time is around 30 minutes. It's the third highest in the entire tournament. And at the same time, Anno, as we said, a bit of a desperation really here, but I think it also comes down to what kind of team that Anno are. They are a team that wants to be proactive in the early game. They are a team that want to make the skirmishes work. And if you're not able to make them work, well, maybe you are starting to feel a bit desperate. Maybe you are starting to get out of your comfort zone, but that's just not helping the situation.
Yeah, just look at the attack speed from Keduii as he gets onto kubYD here and does sacrifice his own life to get that kill. I feel like maybe there was a world where he could get out if he just legs it, but perhaps not. And Seaz is able to just finish that one off. But again, we talked about the carries before, but I want to talk about the people setting these carries up. SLT going on the Gnar this time. It's not the kind of dominant 1v1 carry that we're used to seeing SLT on, but he's 2-0-8, almost 100% kill participation. And even better than that is Seaz on this Alistar. 4-1-8, unbelievable performance as Reeker forces a flash out of LOCKIE.
And the Alistar is not just the fact that he's out there just to create a knock-up. It's how he actually utilizes his abilities here.
Speaking of which, he's going to utilize them to knock JoJo's into Keduii, who's just able to churn through him. Already has the Kraken Slayer. This is feeling real lost for Anno at this point. 14 kills on the scoreboard, 15 minutes on the clock, and Big, they're upset that they don't have a kill a minute just yet, so they turn it into one of their stats. Dominant now trying to chase away. There's kubYD there alongside him, but SLT threatening a dive here. Look at Keduii. This is a flanking AD carry as he steps up to start wailing onto kubYD, the Flame Choppers, to stop the reinforcements. Dominant now moving forwards, and perhaps this is a little bit too much for Keduii. Flashes away, though. He's forced the engage and gets a kill for his work. WouLou now the target as Keduii just wails away. Reeker to get the kill, and Anno have sent more reinforcements to their doom as Dominant falls, and JoJo's for the second time in this fight is going to die again. It's a disaster for Anno, and it's a triple for Reeker.
It's starting to look a bit doomed now. That is just insane, the fact that Jinx can go around the corner and try to play flanking Jinx. Surviving, I gotta reiterate once again, from the help of his teammates here, the Volibear coming in, the Alistar combos, the Gnar in the end. It's just a really well-coordinated pick, and I don't even think you need to take the inhibitor here. If you start taking the inhibitor, it's just too early in the game. They're going to be able to get 3 extra 90 gold per wave if you do that, and Baron's not up, so you can't really utilize the pressure. And once again, like, this isn't Jinx alone. No one is here. This shouldn't be allowed. This should be illegal right here, but somehow stays alive with the flash, with the shield coming out, with the resets afterwards. And look at his HP, man. Like, it's just going back up. He was down to 1/3. He's back to blue 2/3 again.
And then JoJo's TP's in at the end of the play after he was the one that went down in the first place to set up that tower play. He ends up going down again. Not a great start here for Anno. And just remember the stakes for today. Yeah, Big. They're looking fantastic for making it out of the groups, right? 3-0. If they get another couple of wins, they will absolutely guarantee. Obviously, it depends on the rest of the results today. We've got 6 games coming your way today, so there's a lot to happen here in Group A. But Anno, they need these wins. This is one of the series, this is one of the games that's going to be very important on deciding whether or not this team can make it to the group stage. It's them and Makers that are the favorites to get out in that second place spot.
Yeah, and I mean, at the start of the group as well, like, people call Group A the Group of Life, specifically also because Anno was in there. They didn't expect them to really be a competition, but as soon as they beat out on Kick, you knew this group was going to be much closer than first anticipated. But one thing that is not close, that is Big. They are just on all fronts right now, shining. Even Keduii right now. We've had so many talks about the solo laners, but at this point, we need to start talking about Keduii as well. On to Tristana, he had a monumental performance last time they played against Anno, and once again, on this Jinx, he's doing amazing.
Oh, Shockwave in onto WouLou here. He's forced to flash, but I don't think the flash is going to save him. There was a rocket just in case he didn't die to Karim there. And I mean, Gulbo, just look at the scoreboard, man. 20-5 at 18 minutes. There's a 10,000 gold lead. We said Big are a slow starting team. We said, look at the average stats from the first week. This is a team that takes a little while to warm up. No. None of that anymore. They've changed their styles. And Anno looking for an answer. The question is, what does it cost them? Because SLT, I'm sure, will go down here. As he gets a hop, he's surviving as long as he possibly can. Turns into Mega Gnar, and now actually, maybe he doesn't survive. Flashes away from the knockup, and the rest of the squad is here. SLT gets away from a 4-man play in the bot side, while a Herald is about to charge against the Nexus Towers. Last-ditch effort here from Anno, but they're knocked against the wall. Karim into the backline, and the health bars are dropping. Anno will fall LOCKIE, left alone in the world as he's cut down by the bear claws. In the rest of the squad go. Dominant, he was the one to start it all off, and he's the last one to go down as he flashes out into the jungle. But with the inhibs gone and a minion wave here, it feels like this is over. Big put a statement here in the first game they play of week number 2. A 19.5-minute victory as Big almost cement themselves as a team moving towards our playoffs. This is their 4th win in a row and a dominant performance from the Prime League.
Yeah, you know how we talked about they had the 3rd highest average game? I think they're trying to kind of put that down a bit with a 19-minute game.
Yeah.
Is this the fastest so far? Because this is definitely one of the biggest stumps we've seen. That is just a statement game coming out from Big here on all fronts, really, except the jungle. I will say, though, despite Anno going down, they did play to their early game win conditions, but when it came to the skirmishing, Big was just smart on the play. They had the better setup, they created the man advantages, and they created the victories for themselves there. So Berlin International Gaming just really good at playing towards their win conditions.
Yeah, beautiful performance coming out from Big here. And I think one of the most important things is that they weren't just playing towards SLT, right? When we've seen a lot of the games so far in EU Masters, it felt like the solo lanes were very much the story of those games, and it felt like SLT was one of the real factors, getting him a good lane matchup and playing through that. But this time, Keduii stepping up on the Jinx. So we've seen Keduii having really good games on the Tristana as well, but it felt like the team was very much playing towards this AD carry and making sure Keduii was set up for success.
Yeah, and it's really something that people need to be prepared for on Big. They are not just about the solo laners. It's most certainly about the AD carry as well. Is specifically when you have to ban out the Tristana and you leave open the Jinx, there's not really a lot of AD carries left to answer here outside of the Kai'Sa if you want to kind of go for the hyper carry matchup. And yeah, when you're not going for the late game, when you're looking for the proactivity in the early game, there's just not much to do from the side of Anno.
Well, an unbelievable performance from Big to start our day off. And honestly, with them looking like that and with Anno struggling to answer, this group looks like it might just be a little bit done for the side of Big. I think they're going to be able to get out pretty comfortably. We're going to go into a break, and we've got plenty more of Group A coming up in just a few minutes' time.